What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Classic Chronicles. I hope everybody enjoyed their weekend and is ready to conquer the week that is. Oh man, we got Thanksgiving coming up this week. Yeah, man, and I personally have a lot to be thankful for. It's been a hell of a year, especially for the channel, man. It's grown so much throughout this past year, and we're gonna continue to keep it moving in the future. As for what you have coming up on the channel, um, what you guys can expect, I should say. What do you call it? We got an episode of Classic Conversations coming this week with my ninth grade English teacher, Miss Maria Carriescos. She'll be on Classic Conversations later this week. We got a few episodes of Izzy Reacts coming because a bunch of new trailers dropped this week. We're going to do John Wick, and we're going to do uh, possibly, possibly Magic Mike. I don't know. Probably not, but that is a possibility. But and we're also gonna have to react to some devastating news that happened this week, and concerning another piece of another legend of my generation's childhood being gone way too soon. Mr. Jason David Frank. Uh, Y'all know him as Tommy the Green Ranger, and he was also the White Ranger, and the Red Ranger on one of the seasons of Power Rangers. So we're gonna talk about all about that on an episode of Izzy Reacts too. So yeah, you guys are gonna get all that, and then coming up in the coming up over the next couple of months, we got I got WWE shows coming up, more advanced screenings, just more of what you guys love, man. And if you guys want to see something that I haven't done yet, please let me know down in the comments, and I will take it into consideration and see what I can do. But as for right now, we are going to get into AEW Full Gear. We're gonna talk all about the happenings of AEW's uh, last pay per view of the year. Uh, it went down this past Saturday night at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey, aka The Rock. Yeah, man. So let's just talk all about it, man. So on the pre-show, there was three matches. On the pre-show, three matches on the pre-show, I should say. So to kick things off, you had the best friends, which is Trent Beretta, Chuck Taylor, and Trent Beretta and Chuck Taylor teaming up with Rocky Romero, and Orange Cassidy, and a mysterious tag team partner taking on the Factory, which is the stable led by QT Marshall, and it was Cole Carter, Big Shotty Lee Johnson, Nick Camarado, Aaron Solo, Nick Camarado and Aaron Solo and QT Marshall also. And the mystery partner happened to be Danhausen. Now for all of you that watch AEW, you may be saying, how is that a mystery? So what happened was Danhausen got pile driven a couple of like about 2 weeks ago on the steps by QT Marshall on an episode of Dynamite, and that caused him to bring out his very evil side, because he was once known as very nice, very evil Danhausen, and now we're getting the much more serious and serious side of Danhausen. So that's pretty cool to watch, man. He's had some great matches on the indies when he brings out his evil persona. So definitely looking forward to seeing more of that in AEW. So the best friend, Orange Cassidy, Danhausen, and Rocky Romero ended up getting the win over the Factory. Next up, you had Eddie Kingston versus Jun Akiyama. So the story there was Eddie Kingston Jun Akiyama is one of Eddie Kingston's idols, man. Jun Akiyama is a Japanese legend, wrestling for DDT Pro Wrestling in Japan, which AEW has a great relationship with. They also announced prior to Full Gear that an AEW fan favorite and I'm a huge fan of this guy too. Konosuke Takeshita was signed full time to AEW, so they finally gave him an AEW contract. So so Eddie Kingston was facing Jun Akiyama. They had a match the night before the pay per view at on Rampage. It was a tag team match. It was Eddie Kingston and Ortiz versus Jun Akiyama and Konosuke Takeshita. And Jun Akiyama and Konosuke Takeshita ended up picking up the win in the tag match, but on the Full Gear 0 hour, which is what they call the pre-show, Eddie Kingston ended up beating Jun Akiyama. So yeah, and then excuse me, the final match on the 0 hour was a world title eliminator tournament match between Absolute Ricky Starks and was it? Oh Jesus Christ! Not Lance Archer. He already defeated Lance. Oh my God! Absolute Ricky Starks and hold on a second. Jesus Christ! This thing had been going very well up until you forget who Ricky Starks faced in the World Title Eliminator Tournament. Give me a second. It will come to me. Come on, man. No, shit. Hold on a second. Let me look it up because I have the card in front of me. Jesus Christ. Y'all, feel free to yell at me online for this because this is ridiculous, man. Oh, there we go. The Machine Brian Cage in a World Title Eliminator Tournament semifinal match. So Ricky Starks ended up beating Brian Cage with the the Canadian Destroyer, followed by Rochambeau, and then he ended up advancing in the tournament, which he will now face All Ego Ethan Page in the final, I believe. The finals was originally supposed to take place on Saturday night at Full Gear, but due to a legit Ricky Starks injury, they had to move the finals to this Wednesday's Dynamite. Live from Chicago on Thanksgiving Eve. But yeah, no. So that was the pre-show. And let's get to the pay-per-view itself, man. The matches might be a little out of order here because I don't remember the exact order of the matches. But let's get to it, man. First off, we had Jungle Boy Jack Perry taking on Luchasaurus. For those of you who don't watch wrestling, Jack Perry, Jungle Boy Jack Perry is actually the son of the late great Luke Perry, who played Luke on 90210 and also was in that show Riverdale. I didn't really get a chance to watch Riverdale, but I heard Luke Perry was amazing in that because he was great on 90210. But yeah, so the story here is Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, once great friends, now bitter enemies, clashed in a steel cage match in the same building that they won the AEW World Tag Team Championships in back at the beginning of this year. Man, what a great match it was, man. Jungle Boy dropped an elbow on Luchasaurus from the top of the cage, and then made him submit with a snare trap. Not to mention that Christian Cage was by Luchasaurus' side, but ended up getting ejected because he stole the key to open the cage from the referee, and then. But I one thing I found weird about the match was as soon as Christian opened the door, both competitors won the outside of the cage, and one of the ways to win a steel cage match is to either escape over the top rope into the floor, or by pin or submission, which I found oddly that the two competitors were outside the cage doing some of the match for an extended period of time. But I guess that's just how they do it in AEW. But nah, a fun match nonetheless. It was a great opener. Crowd was very very hot for the match. They were very into it. Uh, and then okay, so next up you had a trios match, which is a 6-man tag team match. That's how they call it in AEW, and internationally they refer to it as a trios match. So it was the Death Triangle, which consisted of Pac and the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon and Rey Fenix, taking on the Elite, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks, with Don Callis by their side. So, story here is that the Elite, they won the tag team championships, the trios championships at Full Gear, I should say, which was the pay per view before this. But due to due to their involvement with the backstage issues with CM Punk and everything following the last pay per view, which was All Out back on Labor Day weekend, they were suspended for the company for a couple of months until this whole thing blew over. It was a big investigation. People were fired. CM Punk is most likely gone. So it was a big investigation. If you haven't seen my All Out review, I'll put a link to it at the end of this one, so you guys can check that out. But man, what a great match it was, man! It was so good to see the Elite back facing the great great trios team of the Death Triangle. The match was it was so great to see the Elite come out to Kansas and carry on My Wayward Son. That was a pretty fun track to use for an entrance. And yeah, so the match was won when by the Death Triangle when Rey Fenix used a hammer to get out of Kenny Omega's One Wing Angel, and the Death Triangle ended up retaining the Trios Championships over the Elite. And as a result of that, there is now a best of 7 series coming up that'll culminate in January 2023, if need be, in Los Angeles, January 11th, I believe. They'll be at the Great Western Forum, former home of the Los Angeles Lakers, for a Dynamite taping, and that's where match 7 will be. And the other matches in the series will be taking place prior to that. So yeah, and then next up you had the TBS Championship. Nyla Rose challenging Jade Cargill, the undefeated Jade Cargill. And it's always cool to see Jade Cargill and what she's going to do at pay-per-view events, because she always comes out in special gear for pay-per-view events, and Full Gear was no exception. You had she came out as the Thunder, as one of the Thundercats, which is cool. Another piece of 90s childhood. And not to mention that Nyla Rose, who was accompanied by Vicky Guerrero, paid tribute to Vicky's husband Eddie Guerrero by coming out in a lowrider. 15 years ago today. 15 years ago. Last week, I believe it is, that we lost Eddie Guerrero tragically due to a drug overdose. So yeah, it was great to see that. So yeah, Jade Cargill ended up getting the win over Nyla Rose in an okay match. Wasn't too special, nothing to write home about, but it was an okay match for those two ladies. And speaking of ladies, you had a return to the ring at Full Gear, a return 5 years in the making as Saraya, formerly known as Paige in WWE, took on Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. So this was a clash of generations, man. I mean, you're talking about two women who define women's wrestling. I mean, you had Britt Baker, who basically was the first ever signee to AEW, and then Saraya, who started a revolution in the WWE, and they clashed. And it was a little tough, man. I was very nervous for Saraya, considering she had gone through some neck injuries and told she would never be able to wrestle again. And I was just very, very happy to see her back. You knew the match was going to be rusty because, let's face it, 5 years off in that ring is a long time. I always tell people you can be in shape all you want, but that's very, very different from being in ring shape. So I always try to take that into consideration. And for all you fans, for all you people that say, "Oh, Sarai should have just stayed retired and not came back," look how sloppy that match was. Yeah, come on, man. You can't step in there and do what we do. And I say we because I am a professional wrestler. I'm trained to do it, so I definitely know how much preparation goes into preparing for matches and everything else that needs to be done when you're in there. So I can say that. But for everybody else that wants to sit down and criticize her, they have no right to criticize her because being told that you'll never wrestle again, and then being perfectly very clear, ready to go, and not having that much time to prepare for a match it's very difficult. It's a very difficult process, and for what it was, the match was great. Hats off to both of those amazing competitors, and yeah, so that's just my take on it. So and then we had a fatal four-way match for the Ring of Honor championship. You had not Samoa. Oh my God! You had Chris Jericho, who was the champion. You had Bryan Danielson and Claudio Castagnoli of the Blackpool Combat Club, both former Ring of Honor champions in their own right, and Sammy Guevara. Uh, you know, and it was a very, very, very fun fatal four-way match. Both members of the Blackpool Combat Club, Bryan Danielson and Claudio Castagnoli, ended up facing each other throughout the match, and then Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara ended up running a few spots with each other. So it was a very fun match, and Chris Jericho ended up getting the win, and is still the Ring of Honor World Champion. I definitely like that he's the face of Ring of Honor for now, because they're trying to get that television deal, and they have the Final Battle pay-per-view coming up on December 10th, and I read somewhere that a decision regarding their television deal will be made after that pay-per-view, so I'm very interested to see how that goes. Yeah, so then you had Jamie Hayter taking on Tony Storm for the AEW Interim Women's World Championship, and let me just say something about that, man. The champion is the champion, whether you're Thunder Rosa or Britt Baker or Jamie Hayter or whoever it is, man. The champion is the champion. There should be no interim attached to it. If the champion is out injured and then you have to put the title on a new person, put it on the new person and get rid of the interim title, man. Because I feel it's disrespectful to the person that's currently holding the championship. You know, they did the same thing with the AEW World Championship, where John Moxley, before he defeated CM Punk, uh, they always referred to him as the interim world champion. No, he is the world champion at that time. That's it. You know, if you're gonna just say undisputed when you're if you're gonna have somebody face off for the title, you know, just say undisputed champion. That's it. There's no interim. There should be no interim attached to champions. It's not, you know, it's not a temporary thing. Either you're the champion or you're not. And I believe Sean Spears tweeted that, and I totally agree. But anyway, back to that match. Jamie Hayter taking on Tony Storm for the AEW Women's World Championship, and Jamie Hayter ended up getting the win. And my God, you know, it's been a long time coming for her, so I'm very very happy for her to get that to finally get that championship. Uh, and it seems like the crowd was too. Um, and I totally agree with that. Next, you had a no DQ match with Jeff Jarrett and Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. Oh my God, taking on Darby Allin and Sting. It gave me old school WCW vibes with that one, man. And Jay Lethal also teamed up with Jeff Jarrett in Ric Flair's last match, so that was pretty cool to see those two team up again. Jeff Jarrett is a not only a contracted performer in AEW now, he's also doing some behind the scenes stuff. So definitely good to see Jeff back in the swing of things and still looking great at the age that he's in, that he is, man. And you know, Sting, man. Sting and Darby Allin at AEW pay per views, they never miss. They always deliver. Anytime they're in that ring together, you can expect some crazy shit to go down, and it delivered also last night. So Sting and Darby Allin ended up picking up the win over Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. And then you had three big bulls clashing for the TNT Championship with Wardlow, Samoa Joe, and Powerhouse Hobbs. Like I said, three big bulls and three talented guys just going at it for the TNT Championship. And Samoa Joe is now a double champion because not only is he the Ring of Honor World Television Champion, he's also the TNT Champion, which is the AEW equivalent of the Television Championship. So Samoa Joe is a double champion, man. Super excited. Love Samoa Joe. Love Will Hobbs. Hell, I'm a fan of all three of these men. So that was a great match for me. I enjoyed it immensely. Say what you want. Nothing fancy. Just smash mouth in your face. Yeah. So that's that. And in the semi main event, you had the Acclaimed taking on Swerve and Our Glory for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Man, the Acclaimed are over as hell, man. Love the Acclaim. I love Swerve and Our Glory too. Shane Strickland is a great heel, and Keith Lee has. I've always been a fan of Keith Lee, man. Because, like I said, you should not be the size that Keith Lee is. You know, 6'8", 350, doing moonsaults off the top rope and all that, man. Super athletic. Love Keith Lee. And the Acclaimed, man, they always deliver, man. They like, that's homegrown talent getting over organically, and you don't see that a lot in the business anymore. So major props to both of those teams. And the Acclaimed ended up retaining the tag team championships when Keith Lee and Shane Strickland had the problems that they've been having finally came to a head, man. Because Shane Strickland wants to be the heel, and then, you know, Keith Lee, the wholesome guy who wants to do everything by the book. That they didn't quite agree, so that's what happened, man. They couldn't agree, and Keith Lee ended up walking out on walking out on Shane Strickland, and the Acclaim were able to get the job done and retain their World Tag Team Championship. And in the main event, man, oh shit. Okay, so the main event, the big one, man, for the AEW World Championship, Jon Moxley taking on MJF. So a little bit of background, man. Jon Moxley has been carrying the company for a very long time now. And he was supposed to go on vacation after his his title defense, to losing the championship to CM Punk, but couldn't because like I said, with the that backstage brawl caused a whole lot of problems, and what do you call it? So he was forced to kind of forego his vacation and continue carrying the AEW World Championship. And last night, uh, meanwhile, MJF, he sat out for a while due to payment issues, contract issues, and then came back at All Out, winning the casino ladder match, and the poker chip, which is the equivalent of WWE's Money in the Bank, for a world title shot at any time. And he decided to cash it in last night at Full Gear, man. Very, very good match. Very good back and forth. And, MJF ended up getting the win when William Regal, who was Jon Moxley's mentor in the Blackpool Combat Club, ended up turning on him and causing and aiding MJF in winning his world title by handing him a pair of brass knuckles and knocking out Jon Moxley. So MJF is finally the world champion. I can't wait to see what he does. I love MJF. He's such a great heel, and damn it, normally we say these guys know when to turn their character on and off, but nah, MJF is that way in real life. He is a real heel, man. One of the very last real heels in this business. So yeah, major props to MJF, and congratulations. But yeah, for the show as a whole last night, it was a very, very fun show. I remember because I went to the movie theater to watch it, as I do all the AEW pay-per-views, and there was this guy that was in there. He was legit mad that MJF won the world title. I remember, like, as we're walking out of the movie theater and he's with his friends, he's like, "Oh man, fuck MJF, fuck this guy, he don't deserve it," and all this shit, and everybody's just laughing at him. Like, come on, man, like, that's what it is. Wrestling is supposed to be fun, and apparently MJF is doing his job because this guy was legit pissed. So yeah. Man, what a great show for AEW, and it was a bit of a redemption show because after the whole thing at All Out, there was a lot of locker room tension, and people were like trying to get Chris Jericho and Bryan Danielson and a few other guys were trying to get the locker room in order. So this was a bit of a redemption show for AEW, and they did redeem themselves for sure. And the next pay-per-view we have on the horizon for AEW is Revolution. It is taking place Sunday, March 6th at the Chase Center in San Francisco, California, home of the Golden State Warriors. So yeah, can't wait to see what they do with that. They have a lot of time to build to it, so let's see how it goes. But anyway, that's gonna do it for this episode of the Classic Chronicles. Like, subscribe, and share, and don't forget to hit that notification button so you don't miss a video. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.